Ladies and gents, gits and grots, welcome to Happy Crump and Wargaming. I am your host, Jonathan Arkin, and today we're going to talk about the single greatest trading piece in the entire game of Warhammer 40,000, as voted on by me. I have talked about this guy in a couple other videos, and today I think I'm going to convince everyone to agree with me. So, I am primarily an Orc player, but I am also a huge Custodes player. I love both armies equally. And the Blade Champion, which we are going to talk about today, is my second favorite character, but he is the single greatest trading piece in the entire game. Before we get into it, everyone, please hit the like button. Make any comments down below if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. It's okay to be wrong, people. You can disagree with me. I'll be nice about it. But if you have arguments against me, yeah, absolutely. Please leave them in the comments, and we'll address them. Maybe we can do a follow-up, like a little debate thing. But anyway, we're going to hop on into it. The Blade Champion, the second coolest character in the game, only behind my beloved Squig Boss. What do we have here? Let's look at him. All right, so the Blade Champion's stats. This guy's got a movement of 6, weapon skill 2, ballistic skill 2, strength 5, T5, 7 wounds, 6 attacks, a leadership of 11, a 3-up armor save, and a 4-up invulnerable save. So he's a beefy custodian. That's what you would expect. He costs 120 points. Ignore this picture. That was done before any balanced updates and points updates that GW releases. So he's 120 points right now. He's probably a little undercosted when you consider what you can stack onto him. So what does he do? He's got 3 different attack profiles, and he can just choose whichever profile he wants. He can use Behemoth, which is going to add 2 to his strength, so he's going to be hitting at strength 7. It's going to give him AP 4 and damage 2. The cool thing about this is that when he hits monsters or vehicles with it, if he hits you on a 4-up, it automatically wounds. So it actually is pretty dang cool against certain monsters and vehicles that can be very challenging to wound. You can think of a lot of these guys. Hurricanus, this is going to be his sweet profile. He gets to make 2 hit rolls instead of 1, and it's going to be at strength user AP 1. So instead of 6 attacks, he'll have 12 attacks. This is used for clearing hordes or when you only have to do 1 wound to a character. Maybe you want to choose that. And then his last option is he can choose Victus. This adds 1 to his strength, gives him an AP of 4 and a damage of 3. Now the trick here is he gets to re-roll wound rolls against characters with it. The majority of the time, this is what I find myself choosing when I run the Blade Champion. But it is really exciting that he has multiple profiles. It lets him be very flexible into the game. So those are his attack profiles. Let's learn about some special rules of this legendary Chad. Consummate Swordsman. Each time a melee attack is made against this model, an unmodified hit roll of 1 to 3 always fails. Each time a melee attack is allocated to this model, add 1 to the armor saving throw. What does this mean? He's trans hitman, people. You can't hit him on better than a 4 in melee. And in melee, he gets +1 to his armor save. So he's not a 3-up armor save, he's a 2-up armor save in melee. Then we have Martial Inspiration. Each time a friendly shield host unit declares a charge to an enemy unit that is within engagement range of this unit, add 1 to the charge roll. So if he is engaged with another enemy, say that he charged first, all of your other units will get +1 to charge that said unit, which is hardly game defining, but it's a cool little added in bonus that he gives people. We've got one other really important special rule we need to learn about this guy. The Legacy of Combat. So at the start of the fight phase, if this model is within engagement range of enemy units, it can fight first. He gets fight first, people. Fight first is such a big deal in the game. It's essentially a free combat interrupt or counteroffensive interrupt. He also gets a 6-inch heroic intervention. Now the trick here is this heroic intervention is very unique. It makes him very hard to avoid because his 6-inch heroic intervention, which is huge by the way, does not have to end closer to the closest enemy unit as long as he finishes within engagement range of a character. So if you're trying to charge a nasty character into combat against my Custodes, and you just want to make sure you put another unit closer to the Blade Champion so the Blade Champion has to go towards them, it's not going to work. Because as long as he can get ending an engagement with your character, he does not have to go towards the closest enemy unit. And this is such a powerful ability. It makes avoiding his heroic intervention very challenging, considering it's 6 inches and he can go towards any character regardless of restrictions. All right, so what are the best warlord traits we put on this guy? We've got a couple different options. 3 options that, in my opinion, work from the main codex. And then you've got 4 options that you can put on him from the shield host specifics. And if you don't play Custodes, you know all the shield hosts, don't worry. I'm going to explain all of this in pretty good detail. So the 3 from the main codex are going to be Superior Creation, Impregnable Mind, and Peerless Warrior. Superior Creation is a 5-up Field of Pain. It's awesome on everyone. I typically don't take it on my Blade Champion because I put it on my Shield Captain on Dying Eagle Jetbike, who I can also do maybe a video on him, but this is about the Blade Champion. But this does work on him. It makes him an absolute tank. I just find typically you don't need it. Then you could choose Impregnable Mind, and this is actually generally a fairly reasonable choice on him. It gives him a 24-inch Deny the Witch at +1 to cast. And Custodes being weak against Psychic, that can actually be really useful. And since your Blade Champ is essentially always going to be in the thick of things, he's always going to be within range to try to deny those spells. It can be quite useful, actually. A lot of people don't take it. I've taken it a few times, and gotta be honest with you, I kind of like it. And then Peerless Warrior. This is not one that I particularly care for, but I see the value in it, and I know a lot of other people who play Custodes love it. 6 to wound will cause mortals, and opponents cannot reroll saving throws. This is useful because you're going character hunting with this guy, and since he can reroll wound rolls against characters with one of his sword profiles, or just a little forewarning, if you're using my preferred shield host, he can always do it. You can really kind of try to spike for 6s, which is bonus mortal wounds, not bad. Then he's got 4 other warlord traits, and these are going to be shield host specific. Lock Warden belongs to the Shadow Keepers, which is my beloved and my preferred way to play Custodes. In Lock Warden, the Blade Champion will ignore invulnerable saves versus characters, which is incredibly strong because this guy's job is to hunt characters. I have used this guy to great effect to heroic intervene 6 inches through a ruin to kill the Silent King just outright, and it's really exciting when that happens. Auric Exemplar. This only applies for Emperor's Chosen, which is the majority, I would say, of the Custodes list that you'll see. And he can make an extra attack for every model killed by this unit to a maximum of 4. This is less great on him, but it's still really valuable because he's got that flat 3 damage, which is very rare in Custodes. So sometimes if he ends up fighting like 8-bound or Terminators or whatever, it can be really nice to get a bonus 1 or 2 attacks there if you kill those units. Not really the way I really like him, but it does work on the model. And we have Revered Companion. Now, this is one that most people probably have not heard of. This comes from the Aquilan Shield, which is a very low rate of play Custodes shield host. And I understand why, but I think they are better than people give them credit for. But you can give him half damage with this character. So realistically, if you gave him this and you gave him a 5-up Feel No Pain, the guy can't die. Of course, if I was going to be running that, I'd probably be putting that on my Bite Captain instead, because then the Bite Captain literally couldn't freaking die. But that's neither here or there. So then the last warlord trait that works quite well on him is Sally Forth. This is going to be the specific warlord trait for your Solar Watch. And this allows him to choose one infantry unit in the charge phase, which is the key, to get advance in charge. So he can put this on himself sometimes. He can put this, but typically it's going to be aimed at going towards your, whatever you want to call them, your wardens, your choppy boys, your blenders of the Custodes. A lot of times people will just put this on a captain, on a foot captain, because you can also give the foot captain inbuilt advance in charge as well. So it's not something that always happens, but I can see the value of it. Now, I'm going to talk about what my preferred build is in just a moment, and I'm going to run the math on it, why you need to be paying attention to this. All right, what are the relics that he needs? He needs the Eagle's Eye. The Eagle's Eye gives him +1 wound, so instead of having 7 wounds, he goes 8 wounds. And 1 phase per game before a saving throw is rolled for him, you can choose to give him a 3-up invuln. This is critical to his role in the game. And you're going to hate me when I tell you all the crap that this guy can handle when you give him this relic. The other option that you can give him would be the Stasis Oubliette, and this is specific for Shadow Keepers. And I understand the argument because he always fights first. So if he also gives out Fight Last, he'll literally always fight first, no matter where he is. So I can understand the argument for it. I would not do it because I generally have that relic on my Bite Captain. But once again, we're talking about the Blade Champion here. So the Eagle's Eye is by far and above the best relic to give him. The Stasis Oubliette is just an option. All right, what are the best builds for this guy? This is what we're here for. Here's the best builds in my eyes. So you can go Solar Watch with him, which the shield host for Solar Watch lets him always fall back in charge, which is cool. It also gives him +1 to advance and charge, which is cool. You're going to give him Eagle's Eye because he wants that bonus wound, and you need that 3-up invuln 1 phase per game. And then Sally Forth is the warlord trait that you're going to want to give him. Sally Forth is the thing that's going to allow him to give someone advance in charge or himself advance in charge if there's no one else to give it to. And then Peerless Warrior, because then he can kind of fish for 6s to wound. And, it's kind of nice to be able to make it so your opponent can't re-roll a save throw, which can be cool. So this works. It's not the best way to run him, but it does work. Then I'm going to skip over the middle, and I'm going to talk about the Aquilan Shield. Now, if you run the Aquilan Shield, this guy can actually be truly, truly unkillable. This is the best tank build I think, in the game right here. You give him Eagle's Eye Relic. So 1 phase per game, he's going to get a 3-up invuln. You give him Revered Companion, so he halves all damage. So he's got 8 wounds, and he's halving the damage. And he's got 3 up invuln. And then you give him Superior Creation for a 5-up Feel No Pain. So let's do the math on this. He's Trans-Hitman, so you're going to drop half the attacks against him. Then you're going to use 1 CP to transhuman him, so you're going to drop half the wounds on him. Then he's got a 3-up invulnerable save. And then anything that does make it through is only going to be dealing half damage, and then he's going to ignore a third of that damage. You literally can't kill him. Like, he's unkillable at that point. The problem with Aquila and Shield is they're just weaker shield hosts, so you're not going to see it very often. I, however, prefer the Shadow Keepers. They run the Eagle's Eye and Lock Warden. Lock Warden is the thing that lets them ignore invulnerables on characters. And just stick with it, guys, because I'm going to run the math on this guy, and it's going to blow your freaking minds. Then their option is you can give him Peerless Warrior or Superior Creation. Now, I typically don't take either of those, but you can, and I'm going to show you why. Here's the full strategy with my preferred build, okay? And I'm the Shadow Keepers guy, so this is what we do. Shadow Keepers shield hosts, their specific rule is your enemies will always be -1 attack against you in melee, which is critical for why he's so freaking powerful in this shield host. And then you also get you also get to re-roll all wound rolls against characters with everything in the army. That includes the Blade Champion. So now what happens is you can actually choose maybe his sweep profile to really try fishing for those 6s, because you can do the sweep profile on Shadow Keepers for 12 attacks, get to re-roll all wound rolls. So now suddenly those wound rolls are going, you can fish for the 6s to deal additional mortal wounds. So it gives you a little bit of a different option. I typically don't do that, by the way, but it is a cool option. So he's Shadow Keepers, so you're -1 attack, which is the biggest thing. Then you're going to give him Lock Warden, so he ignores invulnerable saves against you. Optionally, you can give him Peerless Warrior or Superior Creation. Typically, I don't think those are very necessary. Remember, Peerless Warrior is 6 to wound, cause mortals, and Superior Creation is going to be 5 up Feel No Pain. And then, obviously, the Relic, the Eagle's Eye, because you have to have that wound number 8, and you have to get him to that 3-up invuln 1 phase per game. Because there's only 1 phase per game where you need him to not die, generally. So, in Shadow Keepers, he's -1 to attack. He's got all the warlord traits. He's got all the relics. He's got a 6-inch hero convention. He fights first. He ignores invulnerable saves against his enemy characters. Remember, he's going for the enemy characters. That's his offensive ability. He kills. This guy actually deals a lot of damage. Remember, he's flat 3 against characters, ignoring invulns with an AP of 4, rerolling wound rolls, hitting on 2s. He's gross. Defensively, you're -1 attack against him. He's Trans-Hitman, so he's going to, right off the bat, you're going to lose a certain percentage of your damage that you can put out because you're going to lose attack. Then he's going to be Trans-Hitman, so you're going to drop 50% of your attacks. Now, in Shadow Keepers specifically, they're going to be in their martial kata or their karate stance. That makes it so you can't reroll hit rolls. So you're getting no reroll hit rolls against them, ever. Essentially, it won't happen. So you're going to drop 50% of your damage, slightly more because you're also dropping an attack right off the bat. Then you're going to spend 1 CP to transhuman this guy. So you're going to drop 50% of your wound rolls. So you're now down to less than a quarter of your potential damage every time you attack him. And then, depending on how many wounds you make against him, he's going to choose to activate his 3-up invuln over a 4-up invuln. At this point in time, there's basically nothing in the entire game that can kill him in one clean sweep. Just nothing does it, and I'm about to go through the math on it. So check these math profiles out. This is crazy. Remember, -1 attack, Trans-Hitman, transhuman, can't reroll hit rolls against him, 3-up invuln, and he's got a CP to reroll save if he really needs to. Math on the Shadow Keeper build. This guy, the Nightbringer. This is the penultimate character killer. He ignores invulns. He is phase capped himself. He smacks hard. On average, this model, which is 320 points. Remember, the Blade Champion's only 120 points. And he costs 2 CP, to be fair. The Nightbringer, on average, is going to deal 3 damage to him. 3.5 damage to him. Average models killed, 0 dead models, 5.44% of the time. Remember, the Nightbringer has 6 attacks. Since he's fighting a Shadow Keeper Blade Champion, he only has 5 attacks. Now, he's Trans-Hitman, so you can only possibly hit him on 4s. So mathematically speaking, out of 5 attacks, you're going to hit him 2 or 3 times, 2.5 times to be exact. But obviously you can't do that. And you can't re-roll those hit rolls. So 2 or 3. You're lucky if you hit 3, you're unlucky if you hit 2. Then on the wounds, he's going to be transhuman. So you're only going to, say you make 3 hit rolls, you're only going to wound him really once or twice. So let's say we get lucky and you get two wound rolls against him. Well, then the guy has a 2-up armor save in melee. So even if you're ignoring his, what do we call it? his invulnerable, he still has a 6-up armor save. So he still has a 20% chance to block one of those attacks. At that point, you're on average going to roll 3 or 4 damage. So Nightbringer is going to deal 3.64 damage on average, which means it's going to take him 3 turns to kill the Blade Champ, which is crazy. It's a 320-point death model that's made to kill everything in one clean swoop, and the Blade Champ just says, nah. Okay, then let's look at Scarbrand. Scarbrand is the doomsday model in the game. He ignores invulns. He's D3 plus 3 damage. Certainly he can handle the Blade Champion. Not a freaking chance. Scarbrand runs into him with an average of 7.29 damage. Does this mean he can't kill the Blade Champion? No, of course he can. But you cannot rely on that as a game plan, because 55% of the time, Blade Champ lives. And this is without a CP reroll for the Blade Champion, right? Because remember, even though you're going to ignore his invulns, he's still got a 6-up armor save because he's got a 2-up armor save, AP4, saving on a 6. It's so gross, so gross. So Scarbrand, even though he's 330 points and his entire job is to kill that model that has, an invulnerable save, does not kill the Blade Champion on average. 120-point model versus a 330-point model. Now we go with the Orc Warboss on a bike with the Killer Claw and Brutal But Cunning. This guy is a missile, and if you've ever been on the receiving end of this Orc boss, you hate him. On average, he deals 3.5 damage, even with Brutal But Cunning, which is the only way to kind of get over the no reroll hit rolls. He does not do anything to the Blade Champ. And then the Blade Champ's going to strike back, ignore the Orc Warboss's invulns, kill him clean out. Just murk the guy. Because remember, he's rerolling all wound rolls. He hits on a 2-up, so he's going to hit 5 out of 6 attacks. So 5 attacks go through. He's going to wound you on T6, so he's going to wound you on 4s, but full rerolls. AP4 goes straight through your armor save and your invulnerable save. Boom. Orc Warboss dies in return. Don't try it, guys. Don't try it. Exalted 8-bound. These guys are smashing into you. And I gave them the +1 damage strat. On average, total damage against the Blade Champion, 4 damage. 0 dead models 85% of the time. This Blade Champion can hold up to anything. Hold up to freaking anything. So, how do we deal with him? How do we deal with the Blade Champion? The best way for you to deal with him, just shoot him to death. But, unfortunately, it's hard to, because he's going to be lookout stirred. Like, good luck with that. It's going to be really rough. Even when we have certain units like Corandrus, who is just a madman of damage, who will cause 2 mortal wounds on each 6 to hit. So Corandrus' typical thing that he wants to do is he wants to run in and he wants to do his sweep profile and he wants to fish for 6s and maybe try to re-roll some hit rolls. Can't he re-roll hit rolls against the Blade Champion? You lose 1 attack. So instead of having 12 attacks on a sweep profile, he's going to have 10 because 6 attacks times 2 is 12. So you lose 1 of the attack characteristics. So he's really 5 attacks times 2 for 10. So 10 attacks. You're going to hit 1 of those as a 6, which will cause 2 mortal wounds. Maybe you get lucky and hit 2, cause 4 mortal wounds. But then you're only hitting on 4s, so only 5 attacks hit. And then you're going to be wounding on 4s. So out of that 5 attacks, 2 or 3 are going to go through. You're going to save him on your 3-up invuln. He's going to cause 4 mortal wounds on average. It's just the way it is. Corandrus doesn't fight the Blade Champion. Let's give him one last try. Let's have Lord Abaddon, the Despoiler, try. This guy is a total beast stick, and he is a nightmare to deal with. Not for the Blade Champion, because on average, Abaddon's going to deal 3 wounds to the Blade Champion. Abaddon has 8 attacks, guys. 8. -1 because of Shadow Keepers, so now it's only 7. He's hitting you on 4s, but you're not going to be able to reroll anything in melee, so you're going to get 3 or 4 attacks through. He's going to be transhuman, so you're going to get 2, maybe 3 wounds through. 3-up invuln, you're going to get maybe 1 damage through, which is going to be 3 damage. And if you get lucky, you're also going to do D3 mortal wounds. You can't do it. You cannot kill the Blade Champion. He is unstoppable. Guys, this Blade Champion is incredible. He is the single best trading piece in the entire game. He is 120 points. He's got a 6-inch hero intervention that does not have to go towards the closest enemy model, because he can, as long as he can go towards a character. He's got a 4-up inbuild, a 3-up invuln with the relic you're going to give him. He's going to ignore invuln, so he's going to smack back against the characters. This guy is unstoppable. He is the single strongest trading piece in the game. If you're not running the Shadowkeeper Blade Champion, you need to give him a try. There are other ways to run him as well. They're just not as efficient. he is made for Shadow Keepers. He is made for crushing the souls and dreams of every heavy hitter. I have had this guy regularly tie up Mortarion for 3 battle rounds by himself. Or, well, 2 battle rounds. So 4 fight phases, which is insane. Like, how does that work? It just does. The Blade Champion is nuts. And he's actually worse than he used to be, because before the data upslate from the data balance upslate, the balanced data slate from yesterday, in Custodes you could turn off all rerolls and transhuman them. Now you have to choose one. But since you're in Shadow Keepers, you can be in the Martial Kata that turns off hit rerolls. That's why he's so strong in Shadow Keepers specific, because you can do that twice, whereas for other shield hosts you can only do it once. So guys, Shadowkeeper Blade Champion, he's incredible. Nothing can kill him. Literally nothing can kill him in melee. And if you let him get shot to pieces, you're a bad player. So try not to do that. This is it for today, guys. This is the Blade Champ, who's going to be crushing souls and dreams. Some people call him the Blade Wizard. I call him the Divine One. If you guys like this, please hit a like, subscribe, give me a comment. If you have deep dives you want to see on other characters that are incredible value, please let me know, and maybe we can make that happen. Hope everyone has an amazing day. Enjoy crumping, get some Warhammer in. Let me know how it goes. Bye-bye, y'all.